Welcome to the second of the 4-part video on writing an effective literature review. The second part covers the inputs to quality and effective literature review. It includes how to find relevant and quality literature and ends with how to know when we are done with the literature search. Using a systematic literature review process cannot be emphasized enough. A literature review output will be of quality if the input stage and processing stage is systematically followed. We may have a very good system processing, but if the system input is faulty or of low quality, the resulting output of the literature review process will not be effective. We will end up with a case of garbage in and garbage out. There are two key issues in the input stage process. It explains what a quality literature is, as well as the process of collecting articles for an effective literature review. In any systematic approach, if the system input is either not correct, of low quality, and irrelevant, the resulting output is going to be ineffective regardless of the quality of the processing stage. The quality of the literature used plays an important role for advancing the knowledge of the researchers and the overall body of knowledge. The peer review process implemented by the academic research community serves two objectives. First, as a mechanism to control quality, and second, to eliminate flaws prior to publication of research articles. Since not all published material is equal in quality, some precautions must be taken when using non-refereed sources. As for practitioner-oriented publications, it should be limited to factual information only, since it has low theoretical background and application dependency. Therefore, the major source of quality reference must be from leading peer-reviewed journals, since it provides sufficient theoretical background. In testing the applicability of the literature, we must observe two critical aspects. The first deals with the inclusion or exclusion of articles from the literature review, and the second deals with ethical and unethical use of references. Both facets should be addressed during the literature search and gathering process to ensure high quality and effective literature review. Occasionally, research studies attempt to combine several theories, constructs, and/or models. As such, a literature review for each stream of theory or construct may be relevant. In such cases, its applicability must be addressed during the literature search and gathering process as well. A quality literature search is the process of finding quality scholarly literature databases. The purpose is to gather applicable research articles related to the phenomenon under investigation. At this stage, many novice researchers might find it challenging to locate appropriate quality sources to review. The major sources are likely to be in the leading journals. Researchers also should examine selected conference proceedings, especially those with a reputation for quality. It is also always advisable to include our search from a wider scope of literature database vendors. A search by researchers for relevant literature increases tremendously by using electronic resources. The advantage novice researchers have in producing an effective literature review is their full competence in using such resources. However, one common mistake novice researchers may do is attempting to exhaust a literature search using one or two literature database vendors, especially if a keyword search approach is used. This method leads to two main limitations. First is very narrow literature background, and second, shallow depth of literature background. The narrowness of the literature background is in terms of the number of journals or other resources used. This method of researching can cause a novice researcher to obtain only partial knowledge about a phenomenon. Instead, a systematic search should ensure an accumulation of a relatively complete census of relevant literature. Techniques often used to search for literature are the keyword search, backward search, and forward search. A keyword search refers to the reviewing of quality scholarly databases by the use of a specific word or phrase when attempting to find relevant literature. Keywords can be searched against several categories such as the document's keywords, title, and abstract. However, as noted earlier, such an approach may have several limitations. Keyword searching presents a classic cold start problem for the novice researcher. That is, how can we identify the applicable keywords for an unknown domain? The best source for keywords is, of course, the literature base for the domain, and all articles reviewed should be read with an eye for potential keywords. Locating the first article can, however, be a considerable challenge, but keyword search offers the novice researcher a workable starting point. The keyword search should be just the initial, not the main step for a literature search. A common mistake made by novice researchers is to assume that the keyword search yields all that is available from the literature. It is therefore necessary to go beyond keywords and use the backward and forward approaches, which can help researchers to follow models, theories, theoretical constructs, and research streams. Using an effective keyword search will produce some initial insights into the domain we wish to study. But additional steps should be used to advance the knowledge search and the researcher's knowledge about the phenomena under study. One such step deals with backward literature search. The process of going backward in literature can be divided into three specific sub-steps: backward references search, backward author search, and previously used keywords. Backward reference search refers to reviewing the references of the articles yielded from the keyword search. Doing backward references search provides researchers with the ability to learn more about the origins of the construct, theory, or model under study. Backward author search refers to reviewing what the authors have published prior to the article. Reviewing an author's prior work may yield useful information. Previously used keywords refers to reviewing the keywords noted in the articles yielded from the keyword search. Forward literature search is the third step in the process of exploring the knowledge base for references about the phenomenon. Similar to the process of the backward literature search, the forward literature search can be divided into two specific sub-steps: forward references search and forward authors search. Forward references search refers to reviewing additional articles that have cited the article. Doing so will enable us to extend our knowledge even further by locating follow-up studies or newer developments related to the phenomenon under study. Forward author search refers to reviewing what the authors have published following the article. Doing so will enable us to extend even more of our knowledge about the authors by identifying improvements or new findings related to the phenomenon under study. When is the right time to stop the literature search? By default, the literature search process should continuously be done during the course of the study. But from a practical perspective, we need to stop the search and move on to the processing and writing or the output of the literature review. One common rule of thumb is that the search is near completion when we discover that new articles only introduce familiar arguments, methodology, findings, authors, and studies. Thus, when reading a new literature piece, if we get the feeling that we have seen this or something similar to it before, it may suggest that the literature search is near completion. The end of the search can also be indicated when no new citations are discovered and articles cited in newly discovered literature have already been reviewed. In sum, we can gauge that our review is nearing completion when we are not finding any more new concepts in our article set. Quite often, we face a situation where there are too few or too many sources of literature. We can solve the problem of too few sources by thinking in terms of two tiers or circles of the literature. In the first tier or inner circle, we are concerned with studies that directly address our own proposed research questions. If there is a reasonable body of work in the first tier, in many cases, this will be all that we discuss in the literature review. In the second tier or outer circle, we broaden our review to consider articles that are relevant to our own questions or overlap some parts of it, even if they do not directly address similar points. We only go outside the inner circle if there are some specific other publications that propose a theory, policy proposal, or research methods that we want to apply in our own research project. The problem of too many sources happens when the number of potentially relevant publications becomes large, especially when we consider articles in the outer circle. When we find ourselves in this situation, we need a way to restrict our focus. However, we cannot simply select a few books or articles that we find at random. Instead, consider using one or more of the following rules of thumb. The first rule is to focus on leading authorities. These are certain authors or studies that are cited quite frequently in the literature and are often considered significant works. So it is a good idea to respond to what they have to say, even if it means ignoring some less relevant studies. Next is to focus on recent studies. Find reputable or high visibility sources. You generally want to emphasize the most recent research in the domain you are reviewing. Among recent studies, look especially for those that have been published in reputable publications. You may also focus on studies that are most relevant and useful that can inspire you about how to approach your own research. When there are too many literature available, it is not necessary for a review to be comprehensive. Be selective. Focus the review mainly on those parts of the literature that relate to and help advance your specific interests. The rest can be excluded. The processing stage of writing an effective literature review will be in the next video. Thank you for watching. If you find this video useful, please subscribe, comment and like so that more of similar videos can be created.